We go to chapter 3, professional ethics. So when we talk about professional ethics, basically we're talking about personal and corporate acceptable behavior that governs what we do in an organization. So that means whatever we do, it has to be governed with certain rules. This is what we call this is what we call professional ethics. So look at what I wrote here. I wrote, these are personal and corporate rules that govern behavior within the organization or profession. So whatever profession you do, whatever job you take, there are ethics to it. So these are acceptable ways you have to, ways of doing those things. Your function, the acceptable way of doing your function, your role, to perform your role. These are what we call professional ethics. So we have the code of ethics. So let's go down. Here we have the principle of professional ethics. So for the principle of professional ethics, here is professional ethics are the personal and corporate rules that govern behavior within a particular organization or profession. So your behavior, what you do, how you get them done, it's not just going to be you doing it. It has to be governed with the standard that is set within that organization or within that profession. That is what they are saying there. Do you understand or not? Okay. So we have the code of ethics. For this code of ethics, they use the NDM, the National Decision Model. This code of ethics that you're seeing here are from the National Decision Model. So these are the 6 key elements of NDM. What do I call it? The 6 key elements of NDM, National Decision Model. So let's start with the first one, gather information and intelligence. So here, we are all decision makers. So it's basically for decision makers. So whatever decisions you have to take, you don't just take those decisions, you have to take it based on ethics. So that is the first. So you need to gather information, you need to seek information before you take a decision. So look at what I wrote here. Gather information and intelligence. This is a stage. During this stage, the decision maker defines the situation, that is, define what is happening or what has happened and clarifies matters relating to any initial information or intelligence. So this is the stage at which you try to ask what is happening, because you have to take a decision, right? So whatever decisions you have to take, you won't just take it, you will take it based on the information you have. So what are those things? What are those questions you have to ask yourself as a decision maker? Number one, what is happening? Yeah, it's going to take a decision. What is happening? This is part of what you have to put in consideration before you take a decision. 2, what do I know so far? So I have to take a decision based on an action, right? So the first thing I have to ask is, what is happening? So as soon as I know what is happening, the next thing I have to think about is, what do I know so far? So I'm going to take a decision on what I have seen. So am I sure I've gotten a lot of information that would be able to make me take this decision? 3, what do I not know? So what are those things I'm missing out on? Because it is important to be sure before I take that decision. The 4th one, what further information do I need or want at this moment? So at the time of me taking this decision, do I still need to get more information, or do I still want more information before I take this decision? So that is all about gathering information and intelligence. Is it clear or not?
Yes.
So the first key element of the National Decision Model is to gather information and intelligence. And when you are gathering information, what are the questions you have to ask yourself as a decision maker? Number 1, what is happening? What do I know so far? Do I still need to know more? What is it that I don't even know? Is it clear? So the second stage is your assessment of threat and risk and develop a working strategy. So you're going to take a decision. So whenever you're taking that decision, you need to check the pros and the cons, the advantages and the disadvantages of taking that decision. What are the consequences of taking those decisions? So look at what I wrote here. I wrote, this is the analytical stage, and it involves decision makers to ask themselves the following questions. 1, do I need to take action immediately? So this is part of checking on the consequence. Does this warrant me to take a decision right now? 2, do I need to seek more information? So from the first stage of you gathering information, are there information that you are missing out on? So if you are missing out on the information, then this is the stage at which you have to seek for those information. So do I need to seek for more information? 3, what could go wrong and what could even go right, or what could go well? So if I'm taking this decision, what are the consequences? What are the positive things about this decision? And what are the likely negativity about this decision? The 4th one, what is causing the situation? What is the bone of contention? Why has this situation occurred? Do you understand? The 5th one, is that level of risk acceptable? You are taking a decision. Decision is a risk because you wouldn't know what could happen afterwards. Yes or no? Do you think it's worth taking such risk? You have to ask yourself as a decision maker. Am I the appropriate person to deal with this? Sometimes some things will come to you that it's not in your position to make analysis. It's not in your position to decide or to judge. So you have to check if you are taking the right decision and are you the right person to take such decision. This is part of assessment of threat and the risk. I'm a business teacher. When you come with business, economics, accounting, yes, I can judge about them. But when you bring math, I have to ask myself, am I professionally in line with this to take decision about it or not? So this is an assessment. Are you getting it? What am I trying to achieve? Now that I have to take a decision, what is the objective of this decision? What is the objective? And the last one, will my action resolve the situation? It's a situation that needs to be resolved. That is why you have to take a decision. So now that I'm going to take this decision, are the decisions I'm going to take going to solve the problem on ground? You have to ask yourself. Do you have any question about threats and risk? Great. The 3rd one, consider powers and policy. Whatever we do, there are legislation, there are laws that guide them. Did you get it? So you need to put into consideration laws that guide what we do and laws that guide your actions. That is what we're talking about. The 3rd one here, considering the powers and policy. So look at what I wrote here. This stage involves consideration of powers, policies, and legislation that could apply in this particular situation. There's a situation that you have to take a decision on, right? So you need to put into consideration powers, that means the authority, the law that guide whatever you are doing. There are sometimes we say policies and procedures. There are policies, there are rules, there are regulations. But how we carry out these regulations and rules matters. So that is why we need to consider power and policy. Do you get it? So decision makers could ask themselves the following questions. 1, is there any national guide covering this type of situation? Aside your own idea, your own expertise, do we have any guide, national guide, like the country, does it have any guidance towards this situation? If yes, that means that should be the first, not you, because we are governed by the country, by the government. So if government has some say about this policy, about this thing, this situation, that means you have to put into consideration government before your own decision. Do you get it? 2nd, do any local organizational policies or guidelines apply? Not now the government, within your environment. Is there anything that would need to be done before you take that decision? You need to put it into consideration. The 3rd one, what legislation might apply? What kind of laws are we talking about here? Is it the private law? Is it the public law? What kind of law are we talking about? The 4th one, is there any research evidence? So the situation, maybe some people have worked on those situations before. Do you have any records about this situation? You can still use it as part of your own, what do we call it? Your own, what do I use there? As part of your own information that you've gathered, then note this. It may be good to act outside policy as long as there is a good rationale for doing so. So as soon as you try to check through national, through the local, and you feel that there are no laws that could help you to sort. So it could be part of your own source of information. That's what I want to remember. It could be part of your own source. So if you now find out that, having checked around both national and local, you are unable to get, or through the research, you are unable to get information that leads to that situation, then you can take a decision, in as much as it's just a positive one. That means you're not biased. You're not going to be biased taking that decision. I think you know what we're talking about here, code of ethics. So decisions has to be taken, but you don't just take decisions based on your own objective or based on your own situation. You take decisions based on the national decision model, the NDM. That is what we're talking about. I think it's clear. So the next one is identify options and contingencies. So here, this stage involves different ways to make a particular decision with the least risk of harm. So you're not just going to take that decision. You check, you compare and contrast those decisions you have in your mind that you want to take. Which one is less risky? The one that is less risky is the one you go for. That means you are making contingency plans. You've tried plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. So you think plan C or decision C has lesser risk than other decisions, then you take it. So what would you put into consideration if you have to identify the contingencies? One, you have to check the options that are open. As I told you, decision A, decision B, decision C, D, and so on. You have to check all these decisions. Which ones are, you need to check them to compare and contrast. Two, the immediacy of any threat. On which one is going to be an immediate threat to that, like it's going to be a problem immediately, you don't take it. Three, the limits of information on hand. That means how much information do you have with you? This is also important. For the amount of time available. So do you still have time to still dwell over these decisions, or you don't have time anymore? Because if you don't have time, then you have to take the decision as soon as possible. But if you have time, then you can still put it to other consideration of other options that you could come up with. 5, the impact of potential actions on the situation and the public. So if you are taking this decision as a decision maker, how is it positive to the society? How is it negative to the society? What are the consequences to the society? That's the public. Because you are taking a decision based on a situation that would affect one person. And if it affects one person or two, it could affect the whole society. So you have to put it into consideration, the public stance towards that decision. Then the last one, what actions to take if things do not happen as anticipated? This is what I think would happen. So if this does not happen, what should I do? It is part of what you have to put into consideration. Is it clear? Yes. So the last thing is you take action and review what happened. So now you have to take the decision. You have to take decision. Having put into all these 6 key elements, you have to take a decision. And as soon as you take the decision, that means you have taken an action. Then you have to also reflect on that action. So how do you reflect? The situation will occur. Things will happen based on that situation. Then whatever happens, you have to reflect on them. That is what code of ethics are. So what do you do here? This stage has 2 distinct steps. At the action step, decision makers are required to make and implement appropriate decisions. So that means at this point in time, you have to implement the decision. And it has to be an appropriate one, a thorough one. And then you review. The review step requires decision makers to review and reflect on what happened once an incident is over. So as soon as you take the decision, something is going to happen and it's going to be over. So, yes. So that means you're going to get a result on that decision. So then you reflect. Is it a positive one or a negative one? So this is all about code of ethics using the NDM, the National Decision Model, which is you gather information, you assess the threat and the risk involved, you consider the power and policy, you try to identify the options available and the contingency plans. That if this does not happen, what should I do? And the last one is you take action and you review the action. Any question about code of ethics?
No.
Okay. So now we're going to go to the professional ethics in accounting itself. These are for policies, for police, for whatever profession you take. These are just the national decision model. So now, as an accountant, what are those professional ethics? What are those ethics that you need to put into consideration? That will be the next one.